A week earlier, we had no idea where we'd be. No accommodation, no plan, no clue what would happen after returning our Jeep in Las Vegas. Then we discovered a website called Workaway, a platform where you can exchange a few hours of work for food and accommodation. It sounded like the perfect way to keep traveling without burning through our savings. So we sent a few messages, and somehow a couple in a place called Pahrump, Nevada said yes. The next morning, Jans and I boarded a bus from Las Vegas, and about an hour later we arrived in Pahrump. Waiting for us was an older man named Roger. He was standing outside the bus station in worn-out clothes beside an old Daewoo. He smiled, asked if we were Sam and Jans, and welcomed us to Pahrump. At that point, we had absolutely no idea what we were getting ourselves into. Roger drove us to his property on the edge of town. As we entered through the gate, a dog named Mugsy came running towards us. A horse was standing in the yard, and immediately this felt very different from anything we'd experienced before. Then we walked inside, and honestly, our first reaction was a little bit of a shock. The house was, let's just say, very lived in. Outside, there were 55 chickens and a horse roaming the property. Inside, there was Mugsy the dog, a rabbit, and 8 cats, which was especially interesting because I'm allergic to cats. That first evening, after a lovely dinner, we went to bed and looked at each other, thinking, how are we going to do this for 2 weeks? My breathing was wheezing from the cats, and if you'd asked me that night, I would have said there was no way I'd last. The next day was Sunday, so we didn't start working yet. Instead, we walked into town and talked about what to do next. Traveling through America was becoming too expensive for our budget. So, sitting there in Pahrump, we booked flights to Mexico. Just like that, a completely new chapter had suddenly appeared on the horizon. Over the following days, we got to work. The main project was clearing the fence around the entire property. Over the years, bushes and trees had grown through it, slowly damaging the fence itself. Day after day, we cut, cleared, dragged branches and created a path alongside the fence. It wasn't glamorous, but there was something satisfying about it. Somehow, after a few days, my allergy settled down enough for me to function normally. And slowly, something else started happening. The people who felt like strangers when we arrived started feeling like friends. Every day, Roger and Donna made us incredible meals. Big breakfasts, homemade dinners, desserts, the kind of food that makes you feel at home, even when you're thousands of miles away from home. Looking back, it wasn't just the place that made those 2 weeks special, it was the people. In our free time, we explored parts of the area we'd never have discovered ourselves. We visited the Amargosa Opera House, had a root beer float in a tiny desert town called Shoshone, explored old mining ruins hidden in the rocks, and visited China Range Date Farm, a beautiful green oasis in the middle of the desert. The kind of place you would never find unless a local told you about it. We spent evenings watching movies in Donna's son's home cinema, relaxing in the garden, playing with Mugsy, and enjoying a much slower pace of life than we were used to. Before we knew it, our 2 weeks were almost over. On our final day, we sorted firewood, loaded up an old Ford pickup truck, and made a few trips to the dump. Simple jobs, but somehow, by then, it felt like helping family. And that's what surprised me most about this experience. When we arrived, we were wondering how we'd survive 2 weeks. When we left, we wished we could stay longer. The night before our departure, we made a big bowl of chocolate mousse for Roger and Donna as a small thank you. The next morning, Roger drove us back to the bus station, the same place where he'd picked us up 2 weeks earlier. Only this time, everything felt different. We weren't leaving strangers behind, we were saying goodbye to friends. As we grabbed our backpacks and got ready to board the bus, Roger looked at us with that calm voice we'd grown used to hearing and said, "Be good, and if you can't be good, be better." We laughed, but honestly, I've never forgotten those words. The bus pulled away, Roger disappeared into the distance, and just like that, our first Workaway adventure was over. Ahead of us was Mexico, another country, another adventure, and once again, absolutely no idea what was going to happen next. Help us share these world travel stories by hitting that like and subscribe button. Keep chasing your dreams, and I'll see you in the next episode.